Hello, everyone. This is your loving host, best selling author, radio and TV personality. And today I will be reading and reviewing a very nice book, a memoir by Muzzaffar Ali, the famous filmmaker from Bollywood. But before diving into the topic, I would like to remind you that these are my two books. The first one is The Modern Mughal Mentality, New Strategies to Succeed in India and the Global Marketplace. And I want a documentary to be made of this, so all those Hollywood, Bollywood, independent documentary makers who are listening and viewing this episode, please contact me at afshan@drafshanhashmi.com. The Modern Mughal Mentality is a book which was Amazon bestseller as well as hot number one new release. And my second book, The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection, I want a movie or a web series to be made of this. So, all those Hollywood, Bollywood, independent movie and web series and TV serial makers listening and viewing this episode, please contact me at afshan@drafshanhashmi.com. An Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection was also an Amazon bestseller, and both books are available worldwide. So please go and buy these two books because I'm a full time author, and through the sale of these books I bring food to the table. Having said that, friends, for the outbreak of a monstrous infection, for this book Tailflix has given a very very beautiful evaluation, and you can go, and they have compared this book to Contagion, Outbreak, and Crazy Rich Asians, blockbuster Hollywood movies. So they say that if a movie is made of this, then it will be equivalent to that. And you can go and read the Tailflix analysis on my website www.afshanhashmi.com. And all those movie and web series producers and documentary producers, please contact me at afshan@drafshanhashmi.com. And also, folks, I would request you to please sponsor this doco series, because this doco series is syndicated worldwide to 300 million listeners. Just imagine your product will be promoted to 300 million listeners in a very reasonable price. And for sponsorship you can contact me at afshan@drafshanhashmi.com. And folks, now I will show you book festival in which Muzaffar Ali participated about this book. And first we will listen that, and then I will tell you who Muzaffar Ali is, and then I will come to this book reading and review.
Morning to all of you. It's indeed a very big privilege to be part of your festival celebrating business and books, or the business of books and the business of art. Well, I think this book, Zikr, which I've written, is really taking me through this journey of creativity. And creativity actually is a very subjective term. It's basically how you respond to places, how you respond to people, how you respond to the external stimulus of life that shape you. So I think it was very important for me to sit back and look at how things went into my life and how they came out of me. And that's the whole process of zikr. And obviously, time has played a very important part in making me what I am, making me think the way I do. and all the films have been, in a way, all have been testaments to this kind of stimulus to the outer world. In Zikr, I've tried to go back to history, to a place called Lucknow, and to a person called Raja Sajid Hussain, my father, and how his vision and how his kind of tender outlook towards the world and a very human outlook to the world, in a very indirect manner, shaped me. And then I look back, and then how he could have easily sent me abroad to study, but he sent me to Aligarh. Aligarh was, I think, a very important uh, landmark for me. It took out all my feudalism, injected a new kind of a egalitarian uh, way of looking at things. It gave me a love for poetry, although I went to study science, but through science I fell in love with poetry, and through poetry I saw beauty in science. So that was a very interesting journey which I went through. It. You'll find it all in Zikr. And then from there on to uh, the, the artistic side of the business world, which is advertising. I think advertising is a very important aspect of business. It makes you say no to nothing, and an advertising person can make anything happen. And I think that's one thing I've inherited from advertising is that I can make anything work because you just need to understand a process, which is the market, the competition, and what they're doing and how they're trying to present their kind of look and feel and the need for their product, understand the consumer, and give it a kind of identity which makes what you're doing very desirable. And that's what took me to Bombay, to Air India. And I think being in Air India was a very important phase of my life where I saw both art and business walk side by side because what we were selling was maybe just a seat, but we were selling a whole culture, which is India. And a seat gone empty is is lost revenue. So these were the outlooks that shaped me, and I think here somebody like Bobby Cooker, who was number two to Mr. Tata, who had conceived of the Maharaja, he chose me to work with him. And I think it was just his sheer confidence in me that gave me a sense of freedom, sense of art, a sense of commerce, and at the same time allowed me to think as a poet. I'm not a poet, I'm just poetry driven. Allowed me to think as somebody who loves poetry, and then I began to see the world through films. I think I would now like to uh, introduce the moderator on the scene because there's a lot more that can out of um, interaction and question answers. So Gaurav is here. He's supposed to be in conversation with me, and it's nice to know about the book through a young mind who has just freshly got into the book and apparently has finished the book also. And so, thank you very much for having me here.
So, folks, this video is courtesy of Business World, and they had a book festival. So this was about that. And now I will read about little bit about Muzaffar Ali, that who Muzaffar Ali is before reading from his book. So this is Muzaffar Ali is an Indian filmmaker, fashion designer, poet, artist, cultural revivalist, and social worker. Ali was born in Lucknow in 1944, the eldest son of Raja Sayyid Sajid Hussain Ali, the ruling prince of the Principality of Kotwara in Awadh. Muzaffar Ali attended La Martiniere Lucknow and graduated in science from Aligarh Muslim University. And folks, I am also a graduate of Aligarh Muslim University. Ali worked in advertising before turning to film. His first films were Gaman and Umrao Jan, and he also made and starred in the TV series Jahan-e Alam. He later became a fashion designer, creating a fashion label with his wife Meera in 1990. Muzaffar Ali is presently married to Meera Ali, a fashion designer with whom he has a daughter, Sama, who is also a fashion designer. He had two previous marriages. The first of which was to the art historian Geeti Sen, with whom he has a son Murad Ali, a film actor. His second marriage was to the communist politician Sohasni Ali, with whom he has a son Shad Ali, a film director. So this was little bit about Muzaffar Ali, and now let me go to his book. And this is his book, Muzaffar Ali, an autobiography. And the name of the book is In the Light and Shade of Time Zikr. And this is the beautiful cover of the book. And Zikr means in Urdu, it is a Urdu word and it means to talk about. So let me read little bit from chapter first, view from the window. And here it is. And it says, बस के दुश्वार है हर काम का आस आन होना, आदमी को भी मयसर नहीं इंसान होना. And this is a couplet from Mirza Ghalib, and the English translation is, all things can't always be come easy, thus it is difficult for a man to be human. Now let's read from the book. I write this from my home in Kaisarbagh, Lucknow, my father's home, sitting at the window he once sat at. His photographs look down at me as the days from well before I was born unfold before my eyes. Why should one write an autobiography? I have often wondered about the need for one, yet recent times have made it important to realize the relevance of my time and my outlook. My engagement with my medium, my sensibilities, the changing milieu have slowly moved me to express myself and define my dreams. So this was little bit from first chapter. Now let me go to the second chapter, and it is says a button for freedom. And it says again there is a couplet from Ahmad फैज एंड इट सेज हम परवरिश लौ ओ कलम करते रहेंगे जो दिल पे गुजरती है रकम करते रहेंगे. So this is in Urdu and now it is translated into English. I will continue to nurture the pen and the tablet. What my heart goes through, I will keep expressing. I was always interested in stories of Abba Jan's life, and Abba Jan, he is referring to his father, life from where when he was around my age. I could put myself in his position and be the person that he was. Between his photographs, evocative storytelling, and old cars parked in the Kotwara garages was a world of wonder. The 1928 Isota Francini with coach work by Cesar Sala, which one day I sold to bring back to life, stood testimony to this link. I remember distinctly the dial set below the dashboard with a connecting push button in the passenger seat. Pushing the button was like a miracle for me. It would guide the driver on where to go and what to do. The Isota was the first car Abbajan bought in England. The Dowager Rani of Kotwara had paid for her grandson's indulgence. It was not a car, it was a person. It was made for my father, and one can't imagine one without the other. He returned from Britain with spectacular photographs of his cars and vivid memories that went with them. I discovered the essence of automobile design through the Esota. So this was little bit from chapter 2. Now let's go to chapter 3. And chapter 3 is New Dawn. And there is again a couplet from Asrarul Haq Majaz, and it says, Ab iske baad subha har aur subha e now majaz hum par hai khatm shame garibae Lucknow. And the English translation is, Beyond this darkness is the morn, a new morn at that. With me, Majaz comes an end to eves of angst and sorrow. We began visiting Nainital in 1948. I was about 4 years old. I have vivid memories of staying at the Metropole Hotel, which belonged to Raja Amir Ahmad Khan of Mahmudabad and was run very efficiently by Parsi Shaporji. We took a whole wing facing the tennis courts. The staff was well appointed, just as the British had left them. The head waiter was a Pandit from Almora who knew all about the mysteries of mountain mythology, and I feel fortunate that I had the opportunity to spend a few summers with him. He was most dramatic and amusing. He taught us how to eat mangoes. They had to be followed by a cup of cold milk. He would then stroke his mustache and burp long and loud. The large ballroom had diamond shaped beveled windows interspersed with life-size mirrors, a magical place in the day. So this was little bit from chapter 3, and now comes chapter 4, which says the Imli tree. सर्वो समन भी मौजे नसी में सहर भी है ए गुल तेरे चमन में कोई चश्मे तार भी है. And it is from Moin Hassan Jasbi, and it says in English, birds and the stately cypress dance in the morning breeze. Oh flower, is there someone in your garden whose eyes moistened at what they say? So it says the year was 1962. I was at the cups of 18, the Imli 58 years younger. I was young and windblown, lost through the world. The Imli stood firm, waiting for the likes of me. I was to embark on a simple train journey that would change the course of my life. Little short of an overnight run from Lucknow to short for reservations, I would go from a city of beauty to a city of dreams. I could have gone anywhere after my senior Cambridge from La Martiniere College, but I followed my father's advice, who was keen that I make something out of my life. Without any trappings of luxury, living in Lucknow like the son of a Raja, like many people of my ilk and generation, made no sense to him. Like any talukdar of that time, his better days were behind him. My journey from now on had to be devoid of any feudal fragrance, and so I stepped into anonymity. I do not understand what it was that made him think of Aligarh for me at that time. Why did he send me to a Muslim university with which he had no association of any sort? Was it because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, its founder, had an LLD from Edinburgh University like him? Or was it the character of the effeminate Maulana Hasrat Mohani that fascinated him? Abba Jan spoke of the Maulana with great passion as someone who had arrived in Aligarh with his pandan and so was immediately given the title of Bi Chammo Jan. The Maulana dreamt of Sampur Swaraj, total democracy, and coined the slogan Inqalab Zindabad, which means long live the revolution, in the early 1920s. He was expelled from AMU, then known as the Mohammedan Anglo Oriental College, on 3 occasions for his criticism of the British government. It almost felt as if I was being sent to Aligarh as the Maulana's ward. Hasrat Mohani saw no contradiction between being a communist and a Muslim, no conflict between being a Maulana and a lover of Sri Krishna. In a growingly divisive country, such character fascinated my father. If Aligarh could create an open minded Hasrat, it could make something out of his son. It was also likely that my mother had some thing to do with the decision. She knew Mumtaz Haider, a regular visitor in the summers to Nainital, where she stayed with my mother's close friend, the Maharani of Jahangirabad at Hallett Castle. Mumtaz Appa's father was the founder of the Women's College in Aligarh University, which impressed her no end. And Mumtaz Appa was friends with my grandfather and my grandmother. She was very close to my grandmother, so I wanted to mention that from my side. I traveled to Aligarh unreserved third class. My father had reminded me that even the Maulana, who was a member of the Indian Constituent Assembly, always traveled third class. When asked why the Maulana had quit because there is no fourth class, he shared a tanga to Parliament in Hasrat Mohani. Abba Jan found the solution to all troubles. Thank God my father did not ask me to share a rickshaw from the station. In the wee hours of the morning, the train moved into my new world, Aligarh. It was an unclear future that I entered the city sitting on a black trunk that read M.A. Zadi. Abba Jan had said half jokingly, in case there is a communal flare up, you are a Morris Albert Zadi. I wondered where I could find the Maulana to give him Abba Jan's adab, which is salutations, and tell him I had been sent to him so that he could make a man out of me. Maybe it would make my being a fresher easier, but I was 11 years too late. I sat perched precariously on my Zadi trunk as my rickshaw went hurtling down the Katpula. I heard my father's voice. Don't pigeonhole a good idea, Abba Jan's random do's and don'ts. Did I come with the answer in my trunk or to find answers in the world of Aligarh Muslim University? Where I came from, no one knew and was to know. I was to remain a silent observer all along, a liberating idea. Abba Jan himself had gone into anonymity. He wanted to be no one. Each idea he authored came from a different descent. He wrote from his typewriter to the editor of Pioneer under different names. Sajid became Tijaz, then became Kotwara. At other times, he became an educated villager, and sometimes he was just Sajid Hussain. He would travel third class slipper, reserved, of course, under the name of S.H. Johra, in his khadi safari suit, changed into his khadi lungi at night, folded his trousers and kept them neatly under his air pillow so that they remain ironed. He had attained his Swaraj. I went to Aligarh with no dreams. It was a city which slowly unveiled itself, the ugly, the bad, and the good. In that very order, first the summer heat in a three-seater room at McDonald Hostel, Makhi Machar Matri, which means fly, mosquitoes, large biscuit, were what Aligarh was endearingly known for, and these became my constant companions till I left. Then the raging in Aligarh was referred to as introduction. You were asked questions that you had never been asked, and therefore you were not prepared for them. The questions seemed straightforward but were embarrassing to answer and thus hilarious. And there was my mother battling cancer in Lucknow. It was an earth shattering beginning to an educational journey. But I slowly realized there was more to the city than what met the eye. Aligarh was the people I met, the meaning they gave to life, and the association they created for spaces. And the poets of Aligarh taught me this art of associations. The people I met here must have indeed shaped others' lives as they did mine. They moved me to feel and think. Aligarh opened a vista of a post 1857 era building's neo Oriental appearance. The city itself had a similarity with many such cities across India, most of them built by ruling chiefs. All in all, you could feel the presence of a stable Victorian Britain in Aligarh of those days. The university itself was a sprawling complex of colonial Moorish buildings in red bricks with broad white plaster borders defining their shapes. It was connected by parks and boulevards lined with excuse me, it was connected by parks and boulevards lined with majestic trees of all sorts, which became the landmarks of my everyday bicycle journey through the campus. The university had come up with contributions of some generous patrons and rulers, notable among them being the Maharaja of Patiala and the Nizam of Hyderabad. Designed with a modern Islamic vision, it had the unique feel with elegant and spacious mosques and grand gathering spaces. Inspired by Oxford, the founder Sir Syed Ahmad Khan built hostels, cricket pavilions, a riding club, expansive hockey and football fields, an indoor gymnasium, and swimming pools that echoed the same architectural grammar as the historical homes of those who were the builders of this institution, like the Grand Aftab Manzil and the residence of the Nawab of Chatari. Unfortunately, its new architecture post independence in trying to create a modern Islamic idiom was neither here nor there, as eminent painters Satish गुजराल would often repeat to me, हिंदुस्तान की फिल्में और आर्किटेक्चर दोनों हिमाकत का नमूना है. In English, it means Indian films and architecture are both examples of our own stupidity. Ugliness had become to seep in through petty untrained minds given the job to build according to the urgent needs of growth. The first breath of fresh air was the Journal Education Center, which used a new vocabulary of material and form very much inspired by the stone architecture of Delhi, like the India International Center, coexisting with the Lodi tombs in its gardens. Conceived by the visionary Dr. Munis Raza, who later founded the Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi, the Journal Education Center was designed by the great architect Joseph Allen Steen. It was completed the year I landed in Aligarh. My family had many friends and relatives in the city. Maris Road was the lifeline of Aligarh, and anyone resided here. Dr. Zahur Qasim, the famous marine biologist who led India's first expedition to Antarctica, lived here. His father's brother from Rakswara was married to Abba Jan's elder sister. He was over 6 feet tall and could have walked into any Hollywood studio. He was an athlete and a star, the likes of which Aligarh had never seen, driving around in a red and white standard Herald, one of the sportier cars of the time. And I'm honored to say here that Zahur Qasim uncle was a very good friend of my father, Professor Abdul Majid Siddiqui. I felt proud staying with him for a few weeks till I got my hostel accommodation sorted. At times he would drop me to class, but I soon realized it was not a good idea to stand out in the Aligarh milieu. Another home I stayed in for a short period was that of cousin Dr. Mustaja Buddin, who was related to my mother from her Muradabad lineage. He enjoyed playing bridge. Maybe if I had known how to play the game, I would have come to know the who's who of Aligarh, who played regularly at the staff club. Then there was Mahmuda Khala, and again I will say Mahmuda Khala was a very good friend of my grandmother, Ismat Ali, the principal of girls' school, whose home Hamid Manzil was located dead center of Maris Road near the women's college. She was related to me through my nani from her Sheikhpur lineage. Mahmuda Khala's sister was Begum Abda Ahmad, wife of India's former president Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad. Some very attractive young ladies from the girls' school would visit Mahmuda Khala, but unfortunately, I had to leave the room when they came. But the beauty of the mornings in Aligarh had nothing to do with Mahmuda Khala's lovely students. The breeze reminded me of how beautiful Faz had made the early morning fields. नसीम तेरी शबिस्तां से हो के आई है मेरी शहर में महक है तेरे badan ki si. So in English it is, the breeze has come from your garden, my morning has your body's fragrance. I was still oblivious to what the Seher's early mornings and the Naseem's early morning breeze of Aligarh held in their daman folds of the skirt me. Later, I was to plan to make a film on the trauma of pre-partition Aligarh, which, like many of my films, would not see the light of the day. I was for this film that was never made that I had Shahryar pen a poem as a dream of someone not knowing their future. मंजर तरह तरह के दामन में भर रहे हैं हम एक नए सफर का समन कर रहे हैं and English it is visions of all sorts I gather in my fold as I prepared to embark on a journey new. I held close to myself the stay Sabah, the hand of breeze, all along my stay in a city which was going to teach me how to dream and what to dream. As I sat under the imli tree, I felt the intermingling of arts and life creep into me. My imagination flowered slowly between science and art. My father was keen that I take up science to be relevant to the world and without any resistance. I had taken up geology, botany, and chemistry. My only contribution to this choice was including geology. It fascinated me. The secrets contained in large landscapes and mountain ranges, the search for rock samples, and we set out with khaki, haversacks, hammer, and chisel in hand. The echo of the hammer and chisel mixed with the chirping of birds and the sounds of the blowing wind through the lonely mountains. Poets in Aligarh were dreamers. For them, all deserts were the deserts of Najd, Central Arabian Desert, the setting of the immortal love legend of Laila and Majnun, and any passionate quest was Majnun's search for his beloved Laila. It was all about bewilderment and wonder. We began to see our geological exploration in this crazy romantic light. Slowly, I discovered there was a bit of scientist in every poet of Aligarh and a poet in every scientist. I had taken Shia theology as an optional subject, and it was when I was asking around about where its classes were held that someone pointed to Asghar Wajahat, who was also taking the same class. I gave him a lift to the theology department on my bicycle. It was the start of a strong friendship. A Maulana took the theology class. We called him Ghori Mayor because chewing his pan he looked like a horse and would always talk with his mouth full. Often he would forget his pandan at home. Everyone would jump to volunteer to bring it for him. One by one, the whole class would disappear in search of the pandan and then in search of one who went to get the pandan. Asghar and I became inseparable. We had lots in common, and he had also taken up geology. The geology class was very hard work, but most disturbing was the expression on Askar's face as we descended the winding road to the base of the mountains, from the steep climbs of Almora Hills to the rich Dhanwar with Dhyan in the Son River Valley and the sandstone alluvium of Bihar. All the way, Asghar looked as if he would throw up. Still, I enjoyed it. The soundscape thrummed with the poetry that we would recite to each other. राहे वफा में जब कोई संगे गरा मिला कमाल देखा सनम बना लिया सोचा खुदा बना लिया. And it was from a poet Javed Kamal, and in English it says, in the path of faith I confronted the unsurmountable rock, saw and made it a beloved, contemplated and made it God. Besides Shia theology and geology, we had another thing in common, Faz Ahmad Faz. Every day we would discover a new poem by Faz, a new dawn on my creative thought. There are a few poets in each era who gave a new meaning to language, new sense to history, and a new life to metaphors. Faiz was one. He gave the 20th century a global way of seeing humanity. He was born in undivided India, witnessed the largest human holocaust at the time of partition, but still saw the two nations a strong common culture and language divided on communal grounds. He was brought up on leftist anti imperialist ideology, which gave a new meaning to his romantic idealism. So, this was a little bit from chapter 4, and now I would go to chapter Umrao Jan. And Imrajan is one of my most favorite movie. And it says chapter 8 Umrao Jan. कब मिली थी कहाँ बेचारी थी हमें याद नहीं जिंदगी तुझको बस एक ख्वाब में देखा हमें. And it is by Shahriyar, and Shahriyar was also from Aligarh, and he was my parents' friends, So I'm very honored to see all these names here. When we met, where we parted ways, I don't recall. Oh, life I saw in you just my dreams. With Gaman, I had cast my lot with the fraternity, but I had yet not given up Air India. The idea of the next step was weighing on my mind. It had to do with Awadh, of that I was sure. Subhash K. Jain, a businessman and film financer who had taken the distribution rights of Gaman for S.K. Jains and Sons, was a positive force in my life. He was bold and different. Sadly, he died in a car accident soon after Umrao Jan was completed. I lost a strong friend in the film world. It made me realize how important it was to have someone who believed in you in Bollywood, which was like a battlefield with different camps pitched against each other. I was fortunate that I entered this battlefield with Kaman, otherwise, I would have drowned in the struggle with no godfather. Subhashini was both creative and tough and could boldly ward off a lot of problems that I would face as a filmmaker. S.K. Jain lived and worked out of Delhi and had been financing many films in Bollywood. He was powerful enough to keep any camp at bay, and I gave him full credit for protecting me in a world of wolves. Umrao Jan was a classic novel penned by Mirza Muhammad Hadi Ruswa in 1905. Ruswa, who had a degree in engineering from the Engineering Institute in Roorkee, was a colorful character of his time. He was born in Lucknow in 1857, a year of great turmoil for India. He died in Hyderabad on the same day I was born, 21st October, 15 years before me in 1931. Based on Ruswa's novel about a courtesan of Lucknow, my film is about Umrao Jan Ada, a courtesan in the mid 19th century, the zenith of Awadhi culture and the moment when its disintegration began. The story was originally narrated by Umrao to Mirza Hadi Ruswa, who documented it as a memorable and classic novel woven into the tapestry of the light and shade of the period. Refined decadence is the life of a woman who was, in spite of being the victim of the most adverse circumstances, evolves into a highly cultured human being and accomplished poet in her own right. As a young girl, Ubrao was abducted from a simple and happy home in Faizabad and sold to a Tawaif, a courtesan Khanam Jan. Khanam's Kotha is a bewitching fairyland for the innocent girl who's trained there in music, dance, and letters. She grows into a beautiful woman who takes the city by storm with her poetry, singing, and dance. Umrao had a wide range of exciting experiences. Her sustained relationship with the witty Gohar Mirza, her first intense love affair with the chai incested Nawab Sultan, her attempts to free herself from bondage in Lucknow, her escape date with Faz Ali, the notorious dacoit, and many more amazing incidents. Each person she encounters leaves an imprint in her life and contributes to her understanding of her times. Each character is not only a colorful person but also a type, a representative of social class. So this was little bit reading from his book Zikr, and now is the time where I will give my thoughts that what I think of this book. So, folks, you have probably heard his love hate relationship with Mumbai, and these are my thoughts, with the Mumbai film industry in the song from Gaman film, which he made in 1978, which says, सीने में जलन आंखों में तूफान सा क्यों है इस शहर में हर शख्स परेशान सा क्यों है. Why is there a burning in the chest, a storm in the eyes? Why is everyone so troubled? The city. You have seen him cutting a sweat in the first few minutes of Umrao Jan in 1981 as the tragic Zamidar who loses his daughter to a poisonous neighbor. You have admired him as an impresario injecting life into memory through his annual World Sufi Music Festival Jahane Khusru, and you have observed the fine attention to detail in the couture he created through the house of Kotwara. And I'm a big fan of Muzaffar Ali, and I have the honor of meeting him many times. So now in his new memoir, Zikr, The Light and Shade of Time, he describes his life as it was his successes and his failures, his hits and misses, his love and his losses. Zikr accounts how a new aesthetic renaissance was taking place. Finally, one could see good Indian taste emerging after 2 decades of independence. Pupal Jayakar and Kamal Devi Chattopadhyay were giving new meaning to a rap and weft of our culture. Great institutions like Handicrafts and Handlooms Export Corporation of India, Cottage Industries Emporium, and Indian Tourism Development Corporations were coming up. There was a national space being created in the world of tourism and design in Delhi. The new movements like Fab India, started by John Bissell, there were minds such as Mulk Raj, Kushwant Singh, Joseph Allen Steen, Ibrahim Al Qazi, Charles and Ratna Fabry, Ramesh and Raj Thapar, as well as Dr. Munis Raza, founder of Jawaharlal University, who set the tone for an exploration of what the new India would be. Reflecting on his work, Ali says, life moves like the wind. I want to be in a place where I believe in what I am doing and where people believe in me. Whatever I have done has been people triggering me to do what I have done at Air India, for instance, when people, for some inexpressible reason, backed me, supported me, like Baby Kuka and Nari Dastoor of Air India, where he works first in publicity, then in tourism, and finally in the conventions division, who for some reason believed in me and then had the power to let that belief make a difference. You have to find a person who believes in you. So, So, what I would say is the book can be divided into 3 parts. The first comprises chapters in which Muzaffar Ali traces his royal lineage, unlocks his childhood memories of growing up in Kotwara House. Lucknow reflects on the humanism of his father, Raja Sayyid Sajid Hussain Ali, and their shared penchant for cars and horses recalls summer vacations in Nainital, the enduring romance with poetry cultivated at Aligarh Muslim University AMU, his years as an advertising professional in Calcutta, and the remarkable years in Bombay, which is now Mumbai, working with Air India. Then he writes about his filmmaking career, reminiscing on the off camera journey of his films and the cherished associations he formed with the cast and crew. Every chapter begins with the verse or couplet of a Urdu luminary such as Mirza Ghalib, Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Israrul Haq Majaz, and many more. The author Muzaffar Ali opens up about his weakness for trusting people blindly, which was first pointed out to him by his father. His wife Meera and daughter Sama to continue to caution him about this. The gullibility has made him prone to exploitation on a few uh, occasions. And friends, this is a beautiful written book, and it is lyrical and melodious to your ears. And I would give it 5 out of 5 stars. So if you haven't bought this book, go and buy this book and read it. And Muzaffar Ali, man, you have done it again. This is, I just loved it reading, and I'm going to send you my review and would love to hear your comments on my review. And I give it 5 out of 5 stars, and I want to give flying kiss to Muzaffar Ali and keep writing. And folks, go and buy this book. Having said that, friends, I just wanted to remind you that these are my two books. The first one is The Modern Mughal Mentality, New Strategies to Succeed in India and the Global Marketplace. And the second one is The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection. Please go and buy these two books and give me an honest review. And for my first book, The Modern Mughal Mentality, I want a documentary to be made, and all those American companies which are featured in this, for example, Levi's, Starbucks, McDonald's, to Pizza Hut, to name a few. If your CEOs are listening, please make this dream come true. And also, all those documentary makers, please contact me at Afshan at drafshanhashmi.com. For my second book, The Outbreak of a Monstrous Infection, I want a movie or a web series to be made, and Tailflix has given a very good evaluation of this, and you can read that evaluation where they have compared my book to Outbreak, Contagions, and Crazy Rich Asians, which were all blockbuster movies. So they say if this is made, it will if this is made into a movie or web series, it will be comparable to that, and you can read that. There is a separate page on my website www.afshanhashmi.com, and you can go and read that. Having said that, friends, I wanted to remind you that please sponsor this docu series, because this docu series is syndicated worldwide to 300 million listeners, and I need sponsorships to continue to giving these programs, because these kind of programs, to produce it, requires lot of energy and money. Having said that, friends, now I will end this broadcast, and cheers and bye bye.